Welcome to the Dad Share Challenge. I am so excited today because we've got another incredible guest. We have got the beautiful Taryn McGregor. Taryn, hello and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Claire. I'm so excited to be here. It's going to be awesome.
I'm so excited to have you. And for you guys watching, if you're wondering what you've stumbled across, this is the Dare to Share Challenge, part of the Real and the Raw Leaders movement. What is it about? It's about leaders taking to the stage to showcase their vulnerability, to step outside of their own comfort zone, to show their true, real and raw leadership, and really enable us all to see the human behind the perception, what's really going on behind the curtains, behind closed doors, behind the view that we all have from the online space. And this is so that everyone who watches us realizes that we're not that different after all. And if we can still do it, if we can still show up and create the life of our dreams and create the movements that we're here to bring into the world, whilst navigating all of the human stuff behind the scenes, then you can do it too. So with that being said, Taryn, welcome to the Dare to Share Challenge.
That was such a good spiel. Like, oh my God.
So well said and so essential. So
it changes from time to time, but I just let it flow out what it needs to be.
It was aces.
Amazing. So Taryn, before we dive in, please do tell us about the magic that you bring into the world, who you are, where you are, and all of the amazingness that is you.
Thanks for asking. So I exist in a little island off the coast of Rhode Island, USA, so northeast area of the United States. I live on a little island in the middle of the ocean, and it's super beautiful out here. I've lived here for several years, and during my journey here, I worked in a lot of different industries, and then was so hopeful for change, to really change my life and do something that felt more fulfilling and felt more like me. And so I found gardening, and I created a gardening and landscape design business that's now grossed over $500,000 in the last 3 years alone. And that has also evolved into a flower farm business where I sell cut flowers and also do floral design for events and weddings and things like that. And it's also evolved into Opaline Property Services, which is just like kind of like my property management company where I help my clients get things done on their properties that don't fall into the first two companies that I mentioned. And then my last business is Opaline Alchemy, which brings me here today. And that's brought me into your world, which is my intuitive life and business coaching brand, because all of these businesses that have been created have literally been curated from my intuitive channel. And I'm relatively young, even though some days I feel like I'm super old, but I'm 26 years old, and I did not know a friggin' thing about business, and yet I went for it anyways. And kind of like you were saying in the opening, like just kept showing up and kept trusting myself and kept failing and kept moving forward and kept just believing that there was something more for me. And now my life has been completely altered in just the most magical way. And doing really good work and really helping others along that way. And now bringing that to the online space to hopefully inspire others and, empower others that they can create a life from their intuitive channel that feels not only exactly like them, but doesn't represent anything else other than them, because that's how I feel in my life. If anything that I need is here, everything that I need is here, and anything that I want, I figure it out. And so, nothing in my life imitates anything other than what is truly authentic to me. And I think that journey to this point has been such a, fortuitous process, but also just, very arduous and very, I would say a little bit mundane at some points, but also so exciting. And also like, there's just like, I call it like the nervous system Olympics. Is like entrepreneurship is like the nervous system Olympics, and you just have to stay strapped the fuck in, like you really do.
It's so true. And I think, a lot of us, when we're first starting out as well, we don't really understand about nervous system or any of these new kind of terminologies that you figure out along the way when you get kind of further into it. But yeah, you're right. It's a stretch, and it's that stepping into the unknown, but knowing that the more you continue to show up, then there's no other alternative than for growth and than for creating the life of your dreams day by day. I love that so much. Beautiful journey.
It's physics. If you break it down, it's a physical, real tangible asset, which is your energy. So if you're pouring your energy into something, it doesn't go anywhere. You know what I mean? It gets transformed, it gets multiplied, it gets transmuted, and like people forget that energy is like such a real thing. And like the more energy that you put into something, the more it will give you back that energy in time.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. I love this so much. So for you guys watching, what's going to happen is in a moment, I am going to ask Taryn two very important questions. I have no idea what she's going to share with us. I'm always as equally as surprised as you people watching. But what I can tell you is it's going to be stretchy, it's going to be vulnerable, and it's going to be more real and more raw than she's ever shared before. And the reason why is because I always ask our speakers to stretch their own edge, to allow themselves to get a little bit uncomfortable for the sake of showcasing their self-leadership, for showing that you all are the same and that we can all achieve everything that we desire. There's nothing that is superhuman about those people that you look up to. We're all experiencing the same things, and the Dare to Share show is about showcasing that, so you realize that it is all possible. So with that being said, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's dive in. So question number one is, what does being a real and a raw leader mean to you? And I don't just mean in business here, okay? We're talking about life. We're talking about the human experience. We're talking about being an individual in your own right. The realness and the rawness, how does that relate to you when I say something like that? And what does that bring up for you in your own life?
That's just an amazing question. And this question needs to be asked to so many more people, because it's not just about being strong, or just not just about being resilient and like all of like the wonderful, very masculine qualities of business and leadership, and just living in the world that we do, this very like yang type of lifestyle, just always go, 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 all these to-do lists. But the real and the raw qualities are the human qualities. You know what I mean? Like those are like the real parts. We're not machines. And so, yeah, being a real and raw leader to me is really acknowledging that I am not a machine, and the people who work for me are not machines, and everyone has mental health stuff, everyone's got physical body stuff, everyone's got, just like days that they are not on. And like I think that really stepping into leadership first in my own personal life, with my own life, just like being a leader to myself, being that higher self that can offer that support to me, was like not shaming myself into forcing it, or like not shaming myself into like having to constantly be on, and having to constantly be producing and creating and moving forward, and like that rest is safe. And that like that has been such a crazy deep reprogram for me. It's so difficult for me to just stop and just be like present. And like I think that the more that we encourage everyone to know that it's safe to just be and to be present, and to really just like look around, you know what I mean, and notice and harvest the joy that is like literally happening in any single moment. Like that last night I was just lying in bed, and I remembered like years ago I would like sit in front of my altar. I'm very spiritual, and I like have an altar. I sit there and pray, or talk to my spirit guides, or pull tarot cards, or all of my things. And I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, before I started my company, I said in the mirror over and over again, I believe in you, I trust you, and I love you. Like over and over, and like hundreds of thousands of times every single day. I would say that over and over and over because I didn't believe it. You know what I mean? I didn't know that those things were, it felt crazy to me to say that. And like, and now I'm at the point where I don't have to tell myself that. You know what I mean? I don't have to tell myself that. Like, I believe in myself. I know myself. I trust myself. Like, and I love myself. You know what I mean? Like, hands down. But the journey to that has been a super raw and real challenge, and acknowledging people like who work for me as well, like who are having, you know, a mental health day that they just feel like shit. I'm like, stay home, you know, go to the beach, like do something that makes you feel joyful. Like, I don't want you working for me unless you want to be working for me. You know what I mean? Like, the most effective people are those who are having a good time, those who are enjoying their presence there. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not interested in working me or anyone else unless it's an actually intentional process, because like otherwise it's just wasted energy to me and you could be doing something else. And also another point to that too that's raw and real is like, I feel like, you know, the divine feminine, everyone's talking about like femininity and divine femininity, and it's like just like this flowy, very like luxurious, like just ethereal, you know, type of energy. And like, people forget that the divine feminine is also like Kali energy. She's the destroyer. You know what I mean? She's like, she burns it down so it can be refertilized and like birthed a new life. And when we are getting raw and real with ourselves, that's that same energy is just like getting super, you know, in that fire, or super in the water of like the emotions, or super in like, we need to like ground, you know, getting into the earth element, or like, and then allowing like the airy creative thoughts to come back to us once we like settle all of those things. Like, we are nature, you know what I mean? Like, incorporating all of this humanity is really just our natural instinct, and we've been so separated from that. So yeah, that's what it means to be a raw and real leader for me. I think I kind of went on a few tangents there.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I was like, there's so much that I can pull from that. But what you just said there at the end about incorporating all of the elements, because we are all of the elements, you know, essentially it's not about being, you know, typically, I mean, it just brought me back to, you know, what's your zodiac sign? And it's like, yes, we are, you know, we have traits of certain elements, but we're made up of all of it, and allowing ourselves to embrace and embody that. And just what you said, Taryn, about what an incredible real and raw leader you are in the workspace as well, that really touched me, because I think that is so needed. And especially in businesses that aren't just coaching, right? So it's actually really lovely that you're on here with 3D businesses, because I think you might be one of the first that has those kind of businesses and on this challenge. And to bring that into that space as well, where traditionally it's not as mindset focused, it's not as well-being focused, it's not as holistic as a lot of our spaces are in the coaching and the mentorship and the kind of movement world that we're in. So knowing that there are people out there encompassing that in those ground, like feet on the ground businesses as well, is really beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that.
I mean, my employees have said like numerous times, like all sorts of them over the years, have like been like, you are the first boss that actually respects me, or like, you are the first boss that I actually like feel comfortable sharing with. Like, my employee, I just hired a new girl the other day, and she was like, I feel so weird asking this, but like, I have therapy at 11 for an hour. Is it okay? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, girl, this is Opaline. Therapy comes first. Like, you don't have to feel bad about that at all. Like, I'm like, I go to therapy. Everyone should be in therapy.
Yeah.
First of all. I'm like, if you're not in therapy, I don't know if you should be working for me. Like,
Yeah.
I want you to be pouring into yourself in those ways, and like, I'm supporting of that. And just like, it's like, I struggled with that for a while too. Is like, oh, everything needs to get done, you know, because I've grown up in this conditioning of just like hyper masculinity and hyper independence, and like, it's just not the truth, you know. Like, everything can get done when it gets done. It's fucking fine, you know what I mean? Like, the world is still gonna turn. We're all gonna be okay. Like, I'm just like, hey, It's all right. You got to go to therapy, go to therapy. You got to go get a, energy drink at the store. Go, like, I don't care. Like, go, sure, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It's like, those are like small potatoes.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. This is really, really beautiful. Okay, that leads us on to the big question, the one that you're all waiting for. So today, what are you willing to dare to share with us that, and I always like to set a precipice here of, this is something that you don't normally share. It's not a kind of common knowledge that you talk about all the time in the online space. It's something that traditionally a lot of leaders will wait to share until they get to the other side, or they feel that it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with their business, so what's the point in sharing it? Or it's just something that hasn't come to the surface very often for whatever reason that is, but you know in your heart that it's something that the world needs to hear. So today, what are you willing to dare to share with us all?
I had an idea of what I was going to say before, and as you were just sharing that, something else felt like it was more important to share. So I guess I'll start with that and see if it loops around to the other thing. But yeah, this is super vulnerable. A few years ago, in 2021, which was my very first year in business, my husband died by suicide. And I made $100,000 in 8 months that year. And not to jump from the tragedy to the success, but the connection that I have now to my spirit team, like there's a whole team of them. What is so needed in this world is to know that death and loss is not an ending, and that grief is a doorway. Okay. And like, I'm passionate about grieving. Like, I'm passionate about grieving, and I grieve whenever it wants to knock on my door. But I'm 1000% certain that I could not be where I'm at in business without the help and the guidance from my spirit team and my husband, who's dead. And I think that it's, what's really like edgy and stretchy is like, this sense that if you're spiritual, like, leveraging your spiritual gifts to make money is like super taboo or whatever. And I want to reinforce that your guides want to see you win so fucking bad. Like, they really do. They really want to see you win because they didn't have the chance to. Like, they really want to see you win because this is like this is your life. Like, this is your life. It's super important to them, just as it's important to you. And yeah, like, that is like the most vulnerable thing ever. And I talk about on my social media, like I beat addiction, I've beaten eating disorders, I've beaten, mental health, super bad mental health stuff. I was incredibly implicated by birth control, hormonal birth control, like messed with me so badly. And like, I've overcome all of these challenges, but I'd say the one that hurt the most for sure was my husband's suicide. And so, yeah, and I don't share about that as much as I want to on social media, but that's been like the single most transformational thing that's ever happened to me. And I genuinely could not be where I am today without his, counsel, because he just is like always with me. And like, I feel like it's so important for other people to know, like, regardless if they've lost someone, like in their, like, in like the current reality, or like whether it was their grandma when they were little, or like whoever it is, like, and you have that like grief and that heaviness around the loss of this person, it's just like intimacy that's uncourse, like uncharted. And like, when you get into those feelings, when you really allow yourself to like scream or cry or like reach out to someone and scream and cry, like whatever it is, like it's such a doorway. It teaches you so much about yourself, and it allows you to reap answers from the other side that don't make sense in your current reality to your human brain, because I lead a very intuitive business. I'm a psychic, and but I didn't know any of that before this journey. Like, I didn't know that I always knew I was a really sensitive person, and I was always kind of like a bit witchy and whatever, but I didn't know that I was like a literal psychic medium. I didn't know that I was a literal like clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsent. Like all of these gifts came back to me just by allowing myself to feel into, the massive feelings that come up around like such deep grief like that. And our culture and our society has been so conditioned to not look at that stuff and not look at, the hideousness that is a grief portal. But it is just that, it's a portal. And like, if you can build relationship with your grief instead of shoving it away, is so fucking powerful. Like I can't even believe that I didn't just cry during that explanation, because but I could feel him just like guiding the words. It was so vulnerable for me to even share that, but like also I know how important it is. And I think that it's like my work in the world to like not only help people like alchemize their grief into the life that they wanted, because that's what I did. Like, I did that already. Like, I've done that over and over and over with all of the different awful things that I've overcome in my life. But yeah, I think that grief is super vulnerable for most people to acknowledge and to hold. And I think that they're missing out on a whole lot of magic, because I would not be a sliver of the person I am today without my grief. And I never want it to go away, because every time it comes up, it teaches me something.
Wow. What a beautiful, vulnerable share. I can feel the energy, but it's not sadness. It's just that unknown, I think, for a lot of us. It's not always bad, quote unquote bad, right? It's about, like you said, enabling ourselves to feel it and to allow it, and then to alchemize it. So I really, really am deeply grateful that you chose to share that with us today, because I know you said you were going to share something else. And for you guys watching, if you've just listened to this message was for you, because Taryn wasn't even going to share this, and it channeled through her. And it was so beautiful and so powerful. And what I love about it is it's such an unspoken topic, and especially in business, especially in leadership and in entrepreneurialism, because we believe that vulnerability is weakness. And this is what this whole challenge is about. It's about showing that actually vulnerability is our superpower. And if we can share that, and we can have that strength and that courage to show that, then we become the green light and the permission slip for everybody else who's also feeling that, who's also navigating that, but it's stopping them because they think that they're different. And so I'm so deeply grateful that you chose to share that. I would love to ask you one more question before we wrap up. And I think this links on very nicely to where we just ended. But what was it that made you say yes to coming on the Dare to Share challenge? And I'm always curious about this question because, some people, it's about being a trailblazer and about getting behind a movement in the beginning. For other people, it's because they have something that they've wanted to share, but they haven't felt able to for whatever reason. For other people, it's about self-leadership. So I would love to know what was going on in your mind.
My whole business model, essentially this, intuitive life and business alchemy, like that's my brand. And so alchemy is, I'm sure maybe the traditional practice of alchemy is turning stone into gold, right? And modern day alchemy is turning our wounds into medicine, okay? Or turning our wounds into passion, or turning our wounds into profit, or like whatever it is. And so I think that an important part in alchemy and alchemizing, whether it be your life or your business, which in my mind are the same thing. I think that your business is your most powerful tool for transformation personally, like personal transformation. But I think that it's important to, like, I hold space for all of my vulnerabilities because they have all given me something that not only makes me, makes me more free in my life and in my own reality, but makes me more money. Like, I get to be a stronger person and a better leader with more empathy, with more understanding, and with more connection. Like, I'm just connected to all parts of my life because I'm very intimate with them. And like, even the ugly parts, I'm like, everyone is welcome here. It doesn't bother me. So, and like, maybe that's because I'm like a triple water sign. Like, I'm a Cancer sun, Cancer rising, Pisces moon. So I've got this like very like deeply feeling nature, like just inherently, like just how I'm like designed. But I really encourage people to lean in to those edges, because like that's like what I'm bringing to the online space with this new brand is like, once you really let the walls come down around whatever it is that you're trying to bolster yourself against, you will be fucking mesmerized by what it leads you to, because it's such a portal. All of those big feelings are just trying to get you to acknowledge them so they can connect you with something on the other side of them.
So beautiful. So before we finish, please do tell everyone where they can find you and get in your incredible world.
Thank you, Claire. Yeah, I've had so much fun. This has been amazing. Yeah, Opaline Alchemy is my Instagram handle, OPALINE Alchemy on Instagram and TikTok, even though I'm mostly on Instagram. But and yeah, go ahead and follow me over there. We also are offering one-on-one tarot readings, channel tarot readings as well for right now. Only $33 for the month of July, and that price is going up in August. And lastly, we will be having a free masterclass coming out on July 30th, which is called Radical Permission. And Radical Permission is basically the permission slip you get to give yourself to radically embrace what your sacred responsibility is in this world by really acknowledging the truth that's underneath all of these layers of our conditioning and our fear and our vulnerability. And so propelling you forwards into that path with empowerment and understanding of where you're going. And yeah, that's going to be free on July 30th, and you can sign up in the link in my bio.
Amazing. And all of those links will be in the show notes below, so don't panic. If you're driving, you can go and click on them when you get home. Thank you so much for joining us today, Taryn. You have been absolutely amazing. You've shown courage, bravery, and true self-leadership. Been real, been raw, and most importantly, been more vulnerable than ever before. And we are all so grateful that you chose to brave the stage and dared to share with us all today.
Thank you, Claire. It's been so amazing. So excited to have more conversations like this.
Thank you so much. And you guys watching, be sure to subscribe for the next Dad Share Challenge. I will see you all soon.